show that continuity of business. I'm glad you did. He's the one that guy going out for his mail a year ago. It's kind of hard these days to figure out which emails are important and which ones aren't. Yeah. And you get a mountain of emails, you know, COVID-19. Yeah. I'm sure I deleted an important one somewhere along the line.
You know, information overload.
Yeah, you gotta figure out who your trusted source is and then put faith in them. And disregard some of the others. Are we waiting for Eric to tell us it's time? All right, everybody on the phone, hang tight. We're still not quite ready electronically.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
It's Amanda. Can I ask a question before the meeting actually starts?
You can.
Okay, perfect. So for what we're voting on for this resolution, this is not a joint powers agreement. This is the county kind of acting as a mechanism of jurisdiction for Linwood.
Yeah, Karen will explain that. She is in the room and she'll explain it when
okay.
we get there, so we'll have a good explanation for everybody. So with that, I think I am going to call the meeting to order for the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and we will do a roll call vote first, and then Tony will regale us with some necessary legal stuff. So with that, we will turn for a roll call vote.
Trustee Look.
Present.
Trustee Brosted.
Here.
Trustee West.
Here.
Trustee Schulte.
Here.
Trustee Meisner.
Here.
Trustee Gamache.
Here.
Trustee Reinert.
Here.
Terrific. We are all present and accounted for. I will now turn to the attorney for his legal disclaimer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This meeting is now being conducted pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.021. That is a public meeting conducted by telephonic means. The chair of the board or the county attorney may determine that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of a health pandemic, and Chair Schulte and I have so determined. All members of the body can hear each other and they can hear discussion, which has been verified. Members of the public are not present at this location because their attendance is not feasible due to the pandemic. Remind our viewers and the county board that all votes must be by roll call vote. And of course, the law also requires that the board has to allow the public to monitor if practicable. So we are streaming this live so the public can monitor it. And the notice of this particular hearing must also include the right for the public to monitor that hearing, and I'm assuming that has been done so. So those are the legal parameters under which we are operating in this unusual circumstance, and I will turn it back to you, Chair Schulte.
Thank you, Attorney Palumbo. With that, I have no chair's remarks for you today. We will jump right into item 4, which is considering approving the minutes from the HRA board meeting of March 10th of this year. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Trustee Look.
I have a motion.
Second, Brasted.
Motion by Trustee Look, second by Trustee Brasted. Any corrections, deletions, or additions? Hearing none, we will have a roll call vote.
Trustee Brosted.
Aye.
Trustee West.
Aye.
Trustee Schulte.
Aye.
Trustee Meisner.
Aye.
Trustee Gamache.
Aye.
Trustee Reinert.
Aye.
Trustee Look.
Aye.
and the minutes are officially adopted. Next, we are going to consider the HRA approval resolution from Linwood Township for the purpose of assisting the township in development and implementation of senior housing. We will have a description now from Karen Skepper, and then we'll address trustee questions after that. Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trustees, we have been working with Linwood Township for years trying to find a way to do senior housing in their community. Our most recent market analysis took place about a year ago. It showed that we now have a reasonable number of households that we could assist, enough to justify undertaking a senior housing project. I've worked closely with the Linwood Board. They have conducted their annual town meeting. We had a discussion with residents at that time. There were many very positive comments, a few concerns, but the Linwood Board did ask that we go ahead with this resolution. What this resolution does is it establishes that there is a desire to undertake a Anoka County Housing and Redevelopment Senior Housing Project in their community. They're asking for this to be a partnership. There'll be a lot of board action required before we can ever get to a final stage, but they're looking for us to do all of the preliminary work, update our market analysis, do an analysis that identifies what the rent structures might look like. We'll work to determine what the building configuration should look like, whether it should be 1 bedrooms, 1 bedroom den, 2 bedrooms. We'll be working closely with the market analysis on that. And then they're asking that we also go ahead, start working on land acquisition, preliminary engineering, design, and any site due diligence that might be required. We will be reporting back to the township every time we complete a significant step, but this is what gets us really going on getting that project started. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Karen. We will go through a roll call for discussion. If you have questions on this item for Karen or thoughts, Trustee Look.
Mr. Chair, just one thought. I know that we've talked about some of the senior buildings that we have and some of the aging that's occurring and some of the maintenance concerns that are kind of getting more and more based on their age. And so that discussion has kind of gone to possibly selling back to cities these projects. And so I guess just by way of kind of global policy, I guess further discussion might be necessary for me in terms of determining how many of these buildings do we want to have and how many buildings do we want to have that are aging versus possibly moving some of the older buildings out while we're looking at newer facilities coming on.
Thank you, Trustee Look. I'm going to turn to Karen before I go to the rest of the trustees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trustee Look. By Minnesota statute, a township cannot have a housing and redevelopment authority, and the county must serve as their agency. The township has come to us with this request. There are many, many steps in between where they may back down, but I think, yes, we've always talked about a further policy decision type discussion. And I believe we were looking at doing it fairly soon now that we have 7 commissioners again. But we will be doing further discussion.
And for clarity, before we move on in discussion purposes, this first step in no way binds us to further steps. We could take this step and then find out in a month or so that this really doesn't look good to us and we wouldn't have to move forward?
Correct. The same goes for the town board. If the township decides at any point that it's not a good project for them, they also can back out. We are probably months and months and months away from executing a joint powers agreement.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Trustee Look.
Mr. Chair, Trustee Look. So what sort of money are we looking at investing for an updated market survey and everything else before we get to a point where one party may say this is not beneficial or yes, this is beneficial? I guess what sort of money might we be looking at investing?
Karen.
Mr. Chair, Trustee, I would expect that we will expend no more than $15,000 on the preliminary work. If it exceeds that amount, I would want to go back to both our board and the town to make sure that they are still wanting to move forward. But their resolution has made that request to do the work.
Thank you, Karen. Trustee Breasted.
No.
Trustee West.
No.
Trustee Meisner.
Thank you. You guys actually answered most of my questions. So I guess my only final question is, Linwood is the only township of our 21 cities/communities, correct? So, and that is why Anoka County is stepping in as the agency, is because they are a township and not a city.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect.
Karen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, all of our other communities in Anoka County are here by choice. Linwood as a township is here because they need us to do this work for them.
Thank you, Karen. Please mute your phones. And we'll move on then to Trustee Gamache.
No.
Trustee Reinert.
I guess just a couple of comments. I was at the annual town meeting when this presentation was made, and by those that were present, and probably 150 people were present. There was both support and apprehension, a lot of questions about, what kind of project it would be, and I guess just unfamiliarity with the process and what was coming. But the need, based on talking with those that know, is very much present in Linwood. A lot of people get to a certain age, and then there just isn't any way for them to stay in town for this kind of facility. And so I support moving forward and at least giving them the opportunity to either have this project or vote it down and have us discontinue our efforts. But with Commissioner Look's comment, it kind of brings to mind, I guess, do these typically run at a deficit?
Karen.
Mr. Chair, trustees, at certain times we may experience a small shortfall, but as we look at the annual budget, typically these projects are run based on the rents collected. Every one of our communities that has a senior building also is pledging their HRA levy to this project in the need that there is a shortfall. So there's never a shortfall to the city, and there's never a shortfall that our HRA levy can't cover.
Okay, and then as far as some of those rents that come in and the revenues created by the facility, are there dollars set aside in some fund for updates and repairs and such?
Karen.
Chairman, trustee, yes, we always establish a repair and replacement account. We have had times when budgets are very tight and those repair and replacement counts haven't grown as large as we would like. And that's when we have turned to the city and asked permission to use the levy funds established in the account. That's actually one of the agreements in the joint powers agreement, is that if the project itself can't accommodate the improvements, that we turn to the levy funds that are there. And right now, most of our communities are sitting with a very hefty fund balance in their HRA funds.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I guess, just further comment, it's something that if it does develop, it would be a fantastic amenity. The more that I get to know the folks up in Linwood and, what their needs are, this would be a great amenity for them. And I think along the way, though, because you get that far up north and people do like their elbow room and are suspicious of actions by government, and so that we just keep a good flow of communication to them and, make sure that they know that this is for their benefit, and also that they have the option to say no if they want to.
Thank you, Trustee Reinert, and I will add just a couple of comments. Trustee Look has pointed out something that we have discussed for a number of years, and that is investing in these older buildings as they age. At what point does it make sense to roll them out of our portfolio, and how legally do you do that? And there's a lot of hurdles there that we need to work through, but it is a discussion as we talk about building another building. It's something we need to have again, just so we completely all understand that. So as an HRA, we will have that discussion in the coming months, I would hope. But in the meantime, I think this is a good project to get started on the planning phase and see if Linwood can benefit from it and to see if we can help them in that process. With that, hearing no further discussion, we will move to a roll call vote.
Trustee West,
Aye.
Trustee Schulte,
Aye.
Trustee Meisner,
Aye.
Trustee Gamache,
Aye.
Trustee Reiner,
Aye.
Trustee Look,
Aye.
Trustee Brosted.
Aye.
So that item passes, and we will understand that that is the first step in a very long bunch of steps, and we will stay closely grounded with that one to make sure we're on the right track all the time. With that, do you have anything else to bring before the HRA? Karen says no, I'm not hearing anything from my colleagues. I want to take 1 minute just to share with you all that our IT department and our communications department has done some fabulous work in the last week. Just getting this meeting set up where we could live stream it, we could hear each other. Dave Schwank referred to it a little bit ago as kind of duct taped together. That's what happens when you have to do it in less than a week, when you don't have months and months to prepare for something like this. Eric has done yeoman's duty, putting in a lot of extra hours to make sure that we can do what we're doing and to make sure he's getting out the right message to the public and that we don't have mixed messages. I've already mentioned Terry Stoltzman. Our attorney's office, Brian Franz, has worked countless hours with Rhonda and I on a number of issues. I don't know how to thank all of them enough. They've really gone over and above, and that's not even singling out Rhonda, who's obviously, you all know, has put in countless hours because you get the texts, probably the same ones I get in the middle of the morning or late at night. But most of all, I really want to thank you, my colleagues, for your leadership in this time. This is tough times, and we've got a lot of people looking at us. A lot of them don't even know what we do, but they're looking at us right now to make sure we don't misstep. Thank you for your work. Keep doing it. And thanks for joining this meeting the way we had to. I prefer to see you all in person, but this was, I guess, a good second option. With that, with no further comments, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.